Hello everyone, my name is Spread, and today I'm just going to do a video on some recorder practice, some songs on the recorder I've been trying to learn from both the Baroque and other movements in time. I also play some movie music on this instrument. I really love playing the recorder. It's a very fun instrument to learn. And right now I'm having some technical difficulties with my stand, so let me fix that. Getting ready. There we go. That's much better. Alright, so once again, I'm practicing the recorder in this stream, and with the recorder I have two sizes with me right now. This is a soprano and this is an alto. The alto is a very mellow sounding recorder. It's lower than the soprano, which is taught in many schools across countries, and here in the US especially, they teach the soprano recorder in earlier music classes. But on the alto, you have a larger instrument. As you can see, it's much longer for a deeper sound. And the alto is in concert F. As you can see, if I cover all the holes, it will play a lower F. A note that's much lower than the C on the soprano. So you can see it's that rich, warm, very mellow F at the bottom of the recorder scale. And if I align this correctly, as you can see, it's made out of 3 parts. I could align it so it's easier to get that bottom note. I like to twist this end foot joint a little bit off to the center, so at least I can now hit it with my pinky if need be. And a lot of pieces from the Baroque era are actually written for the alto recorder. Specifically, today I'm going to be looking at Brandenburg Concerto No. 4 by Johann Sebastian Bach. And this concerto comes from a collection, 6 concertos for the Margrave of Brandenburg, in which Bach showed different examples of his ability to create repertoire for a long range of instruments. In the Brandenburg Concerto 4, you have a solo concerto for violin, as well as 2 recorders, which Bach calls the flauto di eco, or the echoing flutes. What's interesting is, actually, no one really knows what instrument he actually meant by when he said flauto di eco. Some good guesses were recorders in F, which I have right here. There's also a guess that it's a recorder in G. And the reason why some people speculate it's one of these altos that are in G, unlike this one's in F, but there have been cases of they take an alto and they tune it, they have an alto in G, due to the fact that there are some spots in the concerto where the first recorder part will play these impossible notes in the higher register. One of these notes is the F sharp, that's just 1/2 step below the highest G. So right now I am going to show the fingering for the highest G. It looks like this. Again, to get to that higher octave on a recorder, you want to cover this back hole just by halfway using your thumb. And for the G, you do this fingering. So here's the highest G. It's going to take a lot of air and a lot of air pressure to get it across correctly, but here's my attempt. So that's the highest note possible on the alto recorder that you'll need to play the Brandenburg Concerto 4. But what Bach does, he puts these runs in which you'll need that F sharp that's just a 1/2 step down. So how do you produce this note? Well, one of the ways, and the most primary way, is using your knee and covering the bottom in order to lower the note slightly to get that F sharp. So you can see it's just a tiny 1/2 step lower than that top G. So we're going to have to do that quickly here in these concerto pieces because he puts them in the middle of 16th note runs or very rapid 8th note runs in the cut time section. And usually what people do, they just slur up from an E or an F, and it has like the same effect. It's kind of an illusion. You're trying to make a flat G. You can't really hit the F sharp, so some people try to just make a very flat sounding G. So One of the ways you could do that is just covering all of the holes in the recorder and blowing as hard as you can. Let me try and emulate that here. As you can see, one of the G's was in tune and the other G in the middle there of those two notes, it was a little bit flat, and it was actually more extremely on the flat side than it would be on the right in the middle of the tuner. So that's another way that you could get that impossible note. Alright, so starting with the Brandenburg Concerto 4 on the alto recorder by Johann Sebastian Bach, I'm going to go to the third movement and just play a few runs. Normally I would play along with the recording, but I don't want to get copyrighted or anything like that, so I'm just going to be playing the recorder part and skipping around, to points of interest. So the third movement of Brandenburg Concerto 4 starts as a fugue. And what Bach does, he blends the concerto form, where you have the ripieno, and you also have the tutti parts and the soli parts. He blends that all together in a fugue. And all the instruments starting with the violas, which is interesting, because Bach did play the viola in some of his ensembles. He liked hearing the inner voicings, the harmonies going on, so he played the viola. And he gives the viola the beginning theme, the subject of the fugue. And then it's passed to the second violin, then to the first, and then when the recorders get it, it's now in the key of D major. But to start off, this is what the subject will sound like, if you ever listen to the recording of Brandenburg Concerto 4. So it has that dun 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 dun. So once it passes through the instruments and it gets to the first violin, that's when the recorders are in wait, because we're going to change the key from G major into D major. So the first violin and the solo violin will go. So you can see when the recorders pick it up, it does change into that D major version of the theme. And then we have this long eighth note run, but since it's in cut time, I'll feel like 16th notes. It's starting on the D and then dun 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 dun. And then after that run, we have these long sustained notes that build chords for the rest of the orchestra that has either the theme or another subject playing alongside in the fugue. So, again, going back to that introductory run. Then at that part, we go back to the subject, how it was in G major. And then now the violin is introducing some of the solo parts. Because right where we ended with the... that's where the violin does these arpeggios, leading in to when the recorders come in as the solo instrument for that episode, as you could call it in the concerto. Alright, so there we had the sustained notes after the dun 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 dun. After those, we have these beautiful sustained notes that will echo or interplay with the second recorder part. In the second recorder part, they have this at a staggered pace than the first recorder, so it would sound something like. And then the second recorder comes in later because they have that same theme, but it's staggered. So if you're listening to a recording of Brandenburg Concerto 4, you'll hear one go dun 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 dun, and then we'll switch to the second recorder dun 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 dun, dun. And then at that part, the second recorder actually has this fun run to play, and it goes something like this. So when you double that with a dun 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 dun, you have this kind of like cascading effect, and it's pretty cool. The violin's kind of mirroring both of them, where the violin's continuing to play these arpeggios off of those chord changes. Now we get to the fun part where we have an impossible note. We have that impossible F sharp. So if you could see, I lifted my knee a bit around when I got into the D major section. And that's because up top of that run, right there, we have that impossible F sharp, so I need to hurry up, put my knee up, and then play it, and then put it down. It's very fun, but I can't really do it at the higher tempos. Right now, I'm just taking it slow so I could get the notes down. After that, we have a bunch of sustained notes again for chord building. I'm going to skip over most of those. You really need to hear the rest of the orchestra playing to know where all these fit in, and the other parts have some cool polyphony going on those sections while we're sustaining the chords for them. So I'm just going to pick up at the next recorder, I guess, razzle dazzle part with all the eighth note runs and stuff, and that is about measure 70. Measure 81 on the third movement, if I counted. Somewhere around there. Measure 81. Let me play that again because he does something here. I want to play an F sharp, a lower F sharp next to that E. I want to do that, but actually it's E to a G, so it's kind of like I need to switch my brain to thinking that it's E to G, not E to F sharp. And then now we have, again, some sustained notes. That's where I like to add something that isn't in the sheet music. If you look at the score for the recorder part in this movement of the concerto, you just have regular B's on quarter notes. But like right there, near the end when I change to the A, I like to add some ornamentation so it sounds a little bit fancier, more interesting. Like that. Okay, so now we are going to skip through the whole crazy violin solo because I can't play violin and I'm not using a recording right now because I don't want to get copyrighted while playing it along with the part. But there's a 29 measure arrest bar, and right in there you have one of the craziest violin solos Bach has ever written. And it consists of these 16 tuplets, and there's also 32nd tuplets, I believe. No, I think it's only 16 tuplets. And he just goes up and down all these scales, and it's crazy. If you see a performance, the dude's like really shaking his wrists because he's trying to do this bariolage and all these 16th note runs, and it's just crazy to listen to. But yeah, once the violinist is done with their solo, that just blows everyone out of the water. Get to this E minor section, and we actually answer the E minor section where the fugue now is in stating the subject, the dun 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 dun, but now that's stated in E minor. we kind of do a call and response as the recorder parts, and they play it in B minor right back after the E minor happens. So I'm gonna pick up where that takes place. So right there, that was like the B minor, E minor, all those cool minor keys going in and playing along with the rest of the fugue. So very cool stuff. Again, here's the subject, but it's in B minor this time. And then after all those notes, we have some accidentals. After that run, it solidifies itself as being in B minor. And then we have a little episode leading up into the big recorder, I would say solo, but it's actually the solo section for both of the recorders to play like this little dialogue where they're talking back and forth, and it's pretty fun to listen to. We'll get there in a little bit, and I'll just play to it. So a lot actually happens in that section of the movement. We have, again, the main theme, the and then it goes into C major out of nowhere. It's unexpected kind of how it switches from the familiar, oh, it's in G major, dun 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 dun, and then all of a sudden it gets this new pattern with the eighth notes in that same chord. Dun 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 dun. We're in C minor now, C major now, not C minor, C major, and then we have again some. Again, it's just Bach taking the simple melody and changing it into these different modes where he changes it into a different key. He adds new patterns using the same chords, and you see this everywhere in his concertos and his fugues. He does it everywhere. He combines both the concerto form and the fugue into this movement, which I think is pretty special. It's a doozy one to play off the bat because there's a lot of high notes, but it's a very interesting piece to hear wherever the subject comes in. Oh, here's the response, this is the subject in this key. It's very interesting to follow. I'm going to play through the recorder solo again. Right at that C where we end our solo as recorders. Now the subject is picked up by the rest of the orchestra, but in that C major that we introduced. And then we go back to it, again with the staggered release. So first, the second recorder will go dun 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 dun, and then we'll follow in a staggered pattern. So we're actually going to delay, and then we enter with that subject again. Okay, and then after that we have a few measures of rest, but then it will return to the G major subject with all of its interplay, which we've seen at the beginning of the concerto. But this time we have the role of the second recorder, where we do the fun. So yeah, let's get back to that familiar ground in the G major version of the subject in this fugue. Now there, it's just, again, a bunch of sustained notes to build chords for the rest of the orchestra that has some interplay again, or harmonization within the fugue subject with the other instruments. I'm going to skip most of it, and at the bottom here we have kind of like a big moment, because we're at the end of the concerto, but he does some like surprising things in the music and how it sounds. Like there'll be sections that sound like something surprising happens, it just popped up, stuff like that. So we're going to continue and skip ahead. I missed it, but right around there, there's a page turn, so let's just go back. Right there at those dun 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 dun. Right there, that's where you can actually take some liberties with the tempo. You want to accent those half note rhythms. So you have dun dun. You want to put emphasis on the second one, so it's like a surprising thing, and it will, like, you know, shock everyone. It's like dun 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 dun. That's what I like to do if I was playing along with an ensemble. I'd like to accent the second note of each of those measures, because it has this like popping effect, you know. Just like that, and the fugue closes with the recorders being the only ones playing that subject. The dun 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 dun. So we kind of have a solo at the end, because we're the only ones playing the main subject. Alright, so I'm going to do that whole ending again. Alright, that was Brandenburg Concerto 4 by Johann Sebastian Bach, and we played through the third movement. I'm going to now switch instruments to show you guys my newest instrument that I've gotten. It's a wooden recorder. It's a Soprano wooden recorder made out of maple. It's a Honor brand, and I actually got this a week ago, but I wanted to kind of wait on playing it because of the pandemic concerns, make sure there wasn't any virus or any germs on it. And so yeah, it's been a week since I've gotten this, and so we're going to try it out. I'm going to put it down on the table for right now. I'll also pull out my Soprano. Actually, it's my sister's, but she doesn't play recorder anymore, so I asked for it, so I actually have 3 sopranos, 2 plastic and now this wooden one. And at the same time, I am going to pull out this plastic soprano one. So you can see it's the smaller, more familiar instrument that people learned early on in school in their music classes. And it sounds like this. This is a plastic one. It's a very bright, cheery sound. And now we're going to try out our wooden soprano. Again, wooden recorders have a more richer sound. They're more mellow as well. They're very warm, but they do take a little bit of maintenance. Like, I need to make sure I brush my teeth. I need to make sure I wash my hands before I even touch this instrument. It can't be in extreme cold. It can't be in extreme heat. There's a specific way of cleaning it. There are more parts on this thing that you need to clean than on a regular recorder. I'm going to bring it up to the camera so there's more detail. It's made out of maple, and it's a Hohner soprano recorder. So you can see right there, that's the block. That's where you oil the instrument. You oil it to prevent moisture buildup, especially in the midway and somewhere around the joints. There's a specific way of taking care of these, which I'm still researching. And yeah, it's a very beautiful instrument. Alright, this is going to be the first test of it. So let's see what it sounds like. It's a very bright sound. I wasn't expecting it to be as soft as it was. I was expecting it to be more fuller, but it's again a bright, cheery sound. This one's just a little bit more mellow. I really like it. Alright, what song should I play on it? I could play, actually. I'll play one classical piece on it, and then one from like a movie or a TV show. And then I'll do the same thing on the plastic soprano recorder, and we could compare the sounds. Right, the classical piece I'm going to be playing on this recorder is from Handel's Water Music, and I'm going to play let me see where the sheet music of it is. It's actually in the other binder, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It is it? No, it's right here. It's the Regaudon from the Water Music Suite, and this is going to be the 3rd suite in G major, known as the Flute Suite. I'm going to be playing the 2nd movement from Water Music number 3. Alright, so that was Regaudon from Water Music by George Friedrich Handel. So now I am going to switch over to the plastic soprano recorder. I'm going to put this one down very gently and carefully, like that. Now I am going to play it on the plastic soprano recorder, and we're going to see how it sounds. Will it sound similar or different? Okay, so from first glance, I think, again, the maple soprano recorder is much softer, and this one is more piercing, especially in the higher register. I believe that the lower register on the soprano is better on the wooden one, though. I could hear it from the person playing it from right here, but I wonder how it picks up on the microphone or the camera over all the way over down there, where everyone is. Okay, so that was the first test. Here comes the second test. I'm going to be playing the theme from How to Train Your Dragon by DreamWorks. That movie series has been a part of my childhood, and I love the movies, and I love the music from it as well. And so yeah, I'll play the main theme from it. Alright, so that was the main theme from How to Train Your Dragon on the plastic soprano. Now, let's see how it sounds like on the wooden soprano. I'm gonna just unscrew the top so I can air out a bit. Fun fact from these soprano recorders, you do not want to play them more for 10 minutes a day in the first week you had them. And then after that, you just build up, you work the instrument. And then after a little bit, you could play it longer and longer and longer, but right now you don't want to really soak it or anything like that, so just play it for a short amount of time each day right now, and then as time goes on, you'll play longer and longer and longer, so it gets used to the moisture that will build up inevitably while playing a wind instrument. Alrighty, here it is on the wooden soprano recorder. Alright, so the fingering holes are a little bit different than the one on the plastic, so I just have to readjust. Sorry about that. Alright, I'm going to start it over again. Yeah, I love the lower register on here. I love how it sounds different than the piercing plastic soprano recorder. The lower range is more rounded on the wooden instrument. How does it go? I was trying to play the Lord of the Rings theme, but I kind of forgot it halfway. I really like the lower range on this one specifically. I like the lower range on the wooden soprano recorder. Could play some like Renaissance sounding tunes as well. What is one of the Renaissance songs? Oh. Alright, thank you so much for joining me on my recorder practice session today. We got to check out a new instrument. This is the wooden soprano recorder from Hohner, and it's made out of maple. It's a very fun instrument. It just takes a lot of maintenance, so I'll have to read up more on how to prevent all this damage and all these different like effects from the weather and the temperature and moisture and all that. And yeah, it's a very fun instrument. I think I'm gonna enjoy learning about it and using it to play more songs. But guys, thank you so much for joining me on my recorder practice session today. Hope everyone's been doing well, staying safe, and yeah, please do something nice for someone. Please get vaccinated. I'll catch you guys later. Love you all, and thank you so much for joining.